28.3. We'll be finding the domain and range by graphing. First, we're going to identify all the parameters being A, B, C, and D. And we're going to put next to this, we have a negative here, we're going to put a 1 behind that. And that helps us identify that as a B parameter. See, B is in front of the X. So we'll write this down as a B parameter. The plus 2, that's a C parameter. So we'll put C just above those. And now we're going to remove all the parameters, and what we'll be left with is the absolute value of X. And that'll be our first graph, A. Now, when we put the parameters back on, we'll put the C parameter back on first, which is the 2. So let's put a 2 in here now. And put an absolute value. And that'll be our graph B. And graph C, we're going to finally put our, next we put our B parameter back on, which is the -1. So absolute value, -1, then the X plus 2, absolute value. Okay, let's graph these. Okay, first, graph A, we need the absolute value of X, which has a vertex of 0, 0, and looks like a V shape. Now, these first functions need to be memorized where they are. This one's at 0, 0, and what they look like. This has the V shape. Now, next, we start using our parameters. This is a plus 2. Remember, positive C parameters move you to the, negative C parameters move you to the right. So the positive ones are going to move you to the left. So we're going to the left 2 times. And now our point is -2 for X, 0 for Y. And then you write the V shape there. Okay. And next, C. That was B. C. We're going to use the -1. The -1 will now shift us from the left side to the right side, because negative B parameters flip you from left to right or right to left. It makes a reflection across the y-axis. So instead of being on the left at -2, it's going to be now at the right at +2, 0. And then we make that classic V shape again. And we're done with the graphing. Next, we want to find the domain and range. And the domain we find by finding how far does the graph go to the left and then to the right. Well, since this keeps getting wider and wider, the left is -infinity. And it keeps getting wider and wider to the right as well. So the right is +infinity. Now for the range, we ask ourselves how low and then how high does the graph go? Well, this graph doesn't go any lower than the level right here at 0. So 0 is the lowest that it'll go. And we'll use a bracket because it can actually hit 0. But how high can it go? And you see it keeps going up and up. So that'll be +infinity. Okay, next, we want to graph this function in order to find the domain and range. So we have a -x here, so we're going to convert that to a -1, or we're going to put a negative in front here. And this will be our B parameter. The -2 here, that's a C parameter, and the -3 there, that's a D parameter. So we're going to remove all parameters, this B, C, and D parameter, and what we'll be left with is the absolute value of X. And that'll be our first graph. Then we'll have a second graph, third graph, and I think we'll get to a fourth graph. So this will be first, second, third, and our fourth graphs. So let's put the parameters back on. The first parameter we put on is the C parameter. C parameter will be the -2. So absolute value of X and then -2. Absolute value. Next, we're going to put the B parameter back on. The B parameter is a -1. So we have absolute value, -1, X, and then -2, and absolute value. And lastly, okay, there's no A parameter. We'll put on the D parameter. So we have the absolute value of -1, X, -2, and then the D parameter will be the -3. So let's graph these. So the first graph will be the absolute value of X, which will be here. The vertex will be at 0, 0, and you'll have this nice classic V shape here. And on B, C parameter is -2. And remember that C parameters, when they're negative, they move you to the right. So this will go 2 times to the right, and we'll be at the point 2, 0. And then we'll have that classic V shape there. Okay, next, C, we introduced a negative B parameter. Remember, negative B parameters makes a reflection from left to right or right to left across the y-axis. So instead of being over here on the left, sorry, right, should I say, at 2 to the right, we're now going to be 2 to the left. And our new vertex will be -2, 0. And then we'll make our classic V shape. And finally, with the -3 parameter as a D, it'll go down 3 times, because negative D parameters go down. So we'll go here 2 to the left, and we'll go 1, 2, 3 down, and this is our new vertex, which is -2, -3. Okay, I got it. All right, and then the classic V shape will go there. Now for the domain. The domain, we look for how far to the left and to the right it goes, and you see that's getting wider to the left and wider to the right. That means -infinity to +infinity is the domain. For the range, we look at how low the graph goes and how high. The lowest this graph will go is right here, which is about at -3. So we'll put -3 in a bracket. And how high the graph goes, it never stops going higher. There's arrows here. So that's +infinity for the range.